My name's Erin. I'm the program manager at Fedora. And today I'm talking about the Fedora community, giving a little brief update on what we've been doing, what we've accomplished, and kind of work that we have on the go. So that is what we're going to do. So just really quickly, for anybody that maybe doesn't know how Fedora operates, the Fedora program has its organizational home at Lyrasis. So as an organizational home, Lyrasis provides us with certain resources, services, and things like operational infrastructure that allows me, to be able to focus on managing and serving the program and our communities. Our paid staff team, though, is quite small. I am the only full-time employee. Dan Field is our part-time developer, and Dan comes to us from the National Library of Wales, where he currently spends the other half of his time. But we are in the process of getting more of Dan's time, which is going to be really beneficial. But the bulk of our development and kind of technical work and heavy lifting is really done by this group of individuals here, among others. So this is the list here is what we're considering our active committer team and our active tech team, but there are certainly several others, many others within the community that regularly contribute and support the community in a variety of ways. But in terms of all of that kind of heavy lifting stuff, it's these folks. These are the people that are answering most of the questions in Slack. They're the ones reaching out on the listservs to help people. They're responsible for most of the development that is done, certainly the release processes, and we really wouldn't be where we are today without them and their expertise. So I can't really thank them enough. So just really quickly, Ben Pennell from UNC Chapel Hill. We have Jared Wicklow from University of Manitoba, Damian Katz from Villanova, Doran Shalvey from National Library of Medicine, Calvin Shu also from National Library of Medicine, Thomas Bernhardt from DocuTeam, and James Alexander from the Open University. But as always, we are always looking for new people to join the team. So you don't need to be a really in-depth Fedora expert or a seasoned developer. We need and will accept contributions from a wide variety of skill sets. We're never going to say no to new faces or people looking to contribute. I'll talk a little bit more about how you can do that, but this could be you. There is a space for your name right here. But okay, let's go. There we go. All right. So this is our community, the Fedora community. We are a globally installed open source project. So we don't always know where we are or what we're doing or, who's using it. But last year we were celebrating our 20th year since the beta release of Fedora version 1, which is pretty exciting in open source technology. That's kind of a big milestone. So we are very excited about that. We are currently on Fedora version 6.5.0, which was released in February 2024. I mentioned being open source, much like the Samvera applications. We have approximately 300 known installations around the world. And of that user base, there's a wide range of institutional types, sizes, and many, many use cases. So our community engagement, we have been seeing that is in this state of growth, which is really exciting since the pandemic. And we are really kind of banking on this renewed interest in the software and really kind of riding that energy and excitement as we look to what we're doing in the future. So we have been intentionally returning to in-person conferences to try to reconnect with the community that we have and also meet some new users face-to-face. For me, it's been really exciting because I started during the pandemic and, it's been several years and I'm only now getting an opportunity to meet a lot of these wonderful people that I have been working alongside online only. I'm only getting the chance to meet them now in person. So this has been really exciting for us. And we have lots of things coming out of this kind of renewed interest in the software. This, however, is probably one of my favorite slides and one of my favorite things to share. So this is our list of known users on or migrating to Fedora 6. So I just want to say this is, again, known users. Fedora 6 was released in 2021, and in that first year, even year and a half, we really only knew about maybe 6 to 8 institutions that were kind of in this process or on this list. But now you can see this list is quite a bit bigger, quite a bit longer. And again, this is just those kind of known in the community, known to the community users that are on 6 or trying to get to 6. So there could be more. And in fact, if you don't see your name on this list and you should be on this list, please reach out. I'd love to chat. The program team would love to chat. And I do know that there are others out there who would love to hear what you're doing, what your experience getting to Fedora 6 look like. So absolutely, please reach out. So like I mentioned, we do have a lot going on, but we also have a lot to celebrate from the last year or so. I'll start off with kind of one of the biggest things that was exciting for me. Last year in September, we held our virtual Fedora showcase. So this was a 3-day event, 3 half-day event that we brought users back together in one space to talk about their work, share things that they were doing. It was really highly attended, generated some really good conversations, and really was like a jumping off point for a lot of the community action that we've been seeing lately. So kind of an outcome of the Fedora Showcase was this kind of want or need to gather as user groups again. We used to have distributed user groups, and we recognized that there was an interest specifically from our users in the UK and the EU to meet a little more closely in person. So we're super thankful. We are having our first user group meeting attached to OR, so in Sweden in a couple weeks. And it will be the first in-person gathering that we have had as a community since before pandemic times. So we're really excited to that. It is not exclusively for EU or UK users. Anybody that is at OR that has an interest in Fedora is welcome to attend. It is on the last day of the conference following the closing plenary. But you're welcome to join us there. And if you can't make it to Sweden, we are also a community member at the University of Texas at Austin, Dustin Slater. We're having a smaller version of our meet and greet in conjunction with the Texas Conference on Digital Libraries in Austin, and that's taking place in 2 weeks' time. So we're doing a birds of a feather session there for Fedora users who are looking to get connected with each other, talk about their work. You know, there's some questions that we're going to be fielding to the group just to try to gather some information and kind of bring people back together. So we're supporting that work as well. And then last year, at the end of last year, we released a formal technology survey, which was one of the key deliverables that we wanted to do, or, you know, kind of had coming out of a year of strategic planning that we underwent about a year ago. So the survey here was intended to gauge community interest and understand how the community wanted us to prioritize work as we kind of move through technology planning discussions. So we understand and we realize, you know, our development resources are getting more constrained and smaller. So in order to be the most effective for our community, we wanted to go into the community and say kind of like, hey, what is going to be most beneficial to you? So we used this survey to kind of gather direct feedback on how the community wanted us to utilize our time. So the survey results were gathered, and then what we did with them is we used the prioritization that the community asked us to build our roadmap. So there hasn't been a Fedora roadmap, technology or other, since before Fedora 6 was released, certainly not in my time with the program. So being able to build out a roadmap and really help the community with transparency into what we were working on, you know, estimated timelines, and be able to really point to something concrete was important for me. So the roadmap is going to help manage our work over the next 18 to 24 months. And again, offer that kind of transparency back to the community about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So that's really exciting. And then the last thing that we have been intentionally doing over the last, you know, period of time, understanding where Fedora sits in a repository environment. We have been intentionally working really closely with our sister communities and doing some cross-community being involved in some cross-community working groups. So I presented yesterday on the work of the Hyrax Fedora 6 working group, but we are also involved in the Islandora community in their LAC the LAM interest group, which is a small group of liberal arts colleges who meet regularly to discuss their installations, migration barriers, migration challenges, etc. And we participate over there just as a sounding board for any Fedora input that they need, or to answer, you know, technical questions for them as it relates to Fedora Islandora integration. So that's something that we do. And then we are also members of the OCFL Java Implementers Group. So being involved there, we're a group of users who meet quarterly to discuss ongoing work, kind of talk about maintenance and upkeep of the OCFL Java library, It is not all Fedora users in that group. Only about half of us are. The rest are have other implementations of OCFL Java. So, we just kind of gather to discuss what we're doing and how we can continue to evolve that. But so that is what we did, and this is now what we are working on. So that was then, this is kind of where we are today. So I mentioned building out that roadmap. So a lot of what we're doing is going to be tying back to this roadmap in some element. So kind of one of the biggest pieces that we're working on right now is we are in collaboration with our partners at the Texas Advanced Computing Center at the University of Texas at Austin to do performance testing of a data repository in a high performance computing environment. And the infrastructure involves Fedora 6. So the team at TAC really wanted to understand if Fedora 6 was going to meet the needs of their scientific data repository. They have, high volumes of data in a very different environment outside of the maybe typical academic library space. So they really wanted to understand how Fedora's role could be, or where Fedora's role could be in that infrastructure, and what kind of performance impacts all the different elements of the system would have. So they provisioned us some infrastructure to let us test some different performance metrics and investigate and kind of better understand how each element of, say, a repository system is impacting performance. And this work is ongoing, and we are presenting our results to date at OR in Sweden. But then also the plan is to continue to share this work as we go with the community more broadly. So that is a big chunk of time that we are investing in that right now, and we're super thankful to our members at TAC for contributing on that with us. Another thing that we need to tackle is some long overdue dependency updates to FC Repo Core. So this is going to bring all those outdated elements more in line with the current versions, kind of to protect Fedora from things going end of life, shore up security vulnerabilities, things like that. It's going to be a large undertaking. We realize that. So currently we're in the process of scoping out that work and what specific elements we're going to look at and in what order. So that is, again, on this roadmap of things that we need to tackle, excuse me. And then along with that, we also want to look at documentation upgrades and updates. So we understand and we know that our documentation can be a challenge to use. So there are things that need updating within it, links that are out of date, et cetera. So we really want to have a look at that and maybe deep dive it to try to make it a little more streamlined, a little more simplified, and a little easier for everybody to use. So that's a nice non-technical specific or non-development piece of work that we can do maybe in parallel to some of the other work, but these are kind of our next 3 big elements that we're going to be working on. So lots on the go, as you can see, but that's where, you all come in. So we're always looking for help. We're always welcome to welcoming new faces, technical and non-technical. I always recommend that the best place to get involved is joining Fedora Slack. So this is where the majority of the conversations are taking place. This is where a lot of the technical support is happening a little bit faster. We do have listservs and things like that, but I have found in my experience that the majority of the conversation is happening over on Slack. So, there is an FC repo channel on the Samvera Slack, but I pay attention to both. And so, I like to bring people back and forth across because I think not all of our Fedora users that are helping and contributing to things are connected on Samvera. So I like to encourage people to be connected across both. So there's the Slack channel there. The other thing, and I know that there's people in the room that have heard this pitch from me before, but our weekly tech meeting. So it is truly intended to be open to everyone. We have specifically structured the meeting to have an open floor or kind of an open session at the beginning so that if people have questions, they want to come, introduce themselves, talk about their implementations, ask some questions, they can do that within the first, 10, 15 minutes of the meeting and not feel obligated to stay and sit through, ticket review, et cetera, et cetera. So this is always a really good opportunity to come and meet the tech team, introduce yourselves, like I said, and I really would encourage you to come say hello on there. I know that there are people in the room today that have probably taken me up on that offer and hoping that they can vouch for our openness to newcomers. So always welcome there. I mentioned the documentation upgrades. This is work that we are about to kind of kickstart. Our initial meetings are going to take place through the tech calls. So we're going to start kind of scoping work and digging into that at the weekly tech meetings. But we will probably move that out of the tech meetings at some point once we're to the point of being able to engage outside people in documentation review, et cetera. But this is a really nice way if you're interested in getting involved in Fedora, but maybe not a developer or maybe not a deep experience with Fedora development, to kind of get in, get your feet wet, and contribute back something that's really, really critical to all users. So that is going to be taking place there. I also put some community events in there. I mentioned open repositories and TCDL. So that's places you can find us. We are going to be redoing the virtual Fedora showcase either late summer or early fall. So keep your eyes out for that. And the other thing that I'm going to just mention here is that these are places that we already plan to be, but we would love to get involved in places that we don't regularly go. So if there is a conference or event or something that you would like to participate in, and maybe there's a Fedora element tied to it, and you would like some support, I have written conference proposals, I have written presentation proposals in collaboration with community members to try to get, to talk at places that we don't regularly go. I have always told community members, you may find your work tedious and boring, but that's because you do it every day. I can guarantee you that there's somebody else out there that would find value in what you're doing every day. So being willing and interested in sharing that with others is really beneficial. If you are talking about a system that involves Samvera elements or involves Fedora, mention it. Others being able to see themselves in what you're doing is a really strong message about our softwares and what how people are working with them. So that's just my little pitch for connecting and not being afraid to talk about your work. And then the last little bit that I put here is just the Code for Lib Slack channel, the OCFL element there. For anybody interested in learning more about that community, I would encourage you to go to the community meetings, come to the Java implementers meeting if you're interested. It's a really great resource. We lean heavily on it because we have OCFL in Fedora 6. So a community that we like to stay close to so that we can follow that work along. But that is all that I have for me.